Hey everybody, today Rahdo
runs down
Tash, Kalar, Etherweave. This is the third expansion for the excellent dueling wizard game Tash, Kalar. I'm going to spend a few minutes today telling you what's new, what changes, what's really neat about this expansion. Although before I get going, I'm not going to be doing any actual gameplay demonstrations. If you want to know how Tash, Kalar itself works, hit that eye in the top right corner screen or follow the show notes to watch my original run through. Today, this is a
rundown
for people who already know and love Tash, Kalar and are wondering what happens if they delve into the Etherweave. Well, let me tell you, it's something very, very cool. Here's what you get. First of all, you get a new deathmatch board, which is pretty much the same as other ones, except it's got these 2 extra spaces on it, so it's longer than the normal one, for reasons that will become clear later if you play deathmatch. But more importantly, you get a new deck of being cards, and of course, new purple tokens. The fact that this is all purple instantly made this Jen's favorite expansion, just because she gets to see all this purple all the time. So you get tokens, that's all very nice. But the important thing, of course, is the cards. So let's zoom in and talk about them. Now, you have a whole bunch of new, and again, there's a whole bunch of purple, and so they look gorgeous. And the theme here, well, is time. Time itself. If you are an Etherweave sorcerer, you have the ability to reach into the future and grab power to bring back to the present so that you can instantly do things, but that means at some point in the future, you have to do the thing that allowed your present self to get the power from the future, if that makes sense. It's kind of mind-bending, like all good time travel stories are. And so it's not too terribly surprising that Etherweave is co-designed by Dave Turczi, the designer of Anachrony, which was an awesome Euro-style economic resource game about time travel, reaching into the future to grab resources from the future that you need in the present, but then you need to generate those resources in the future. We're doing the same thing in Etherweave, except at some point in the future, I will summon the Polarity Queen. I know at some point in the future I will do it, but right now I want to warp space and time to grab this benefit from the future. So how does that work? Well, let's say I'm playing along and I've got what? A Polarity Queen, a Time Traveler, and a Reality Patch in my hand, right? Now, these 2 cards, they work the same as normal. Hey, to do the Time Traveler, I need to have this particular pattern, and I can spend an action and put it into play and get the benefit of the card, the lovely purple card. Same for the Reality Patch. But let's say I've got this Polarity Queen in my hand. So now I could make this pattern to match the queen. And like always, I love how in Tash, Kalar, the patterns you're making kind of thematically represent the creature or the being that you're summoning. You can almost imagine like this is the queen holding her arms up to the sky to call down the strength of heavens, kind of like Storm from X-Men, kind of obviously gives you that effect. So anyway, I can play her like a normal character, just get this pattern on the board and say, hey, for an action, I will play her and and use her special ability and all of that. But instead, for free, not using one of my actions of my turns, I can warp space and time and do this warp effect. Place a common piece of your color onto an empty square adjacent to an enemy piece. And that might be something I need. I just need to put a piece right over here, right now, so that I can summon the Time Traveler, let's say, because that would let me summon the Time Traveler. So how do I do that? Basically, when I have this in my hand, instead of spending an action to show that I've made this pattern, and I can instead say, you know what? I am just going to open a portal and reach into the future and summon this power and do this effect. And that means, I get to do the warp effect. And then I don't put this card into play because I haven't summoned the Polarity Queen yet. Instead, I put it on top of my draw pile. Now, strictly speaking, this card is effectively still part of my hand, but it's publicly on display for all to see. And because I have done this, because I have reached into the future and bent the laws of time and space to be able to pull this power out of the future when I do summon the Polarity Queen, I suffer a 2-point penalty. If officially I have, 7 points, I've really only got 5. That's why the deathmatch board needs these extra spaces, because whenever you have I forget what it's called, whenever you have a pending being, this is a pending being, you are suffering a 2-point penalty, which, might have an impact on, all kinds of stuff. But anyway, so I've reached into the future to get a little taste of the Polarity Queen's power to do this effect, and it didn't take an action. Normally, I'd have to spend an action to get my character onto the board to be able to play the Time Traveler, but I don't want to spend the action, so I played this for free. It's a pending being. I'm suffering a 2-point penalty, and now, at some point in the future, before the game is over, I am going to want to get this pattern on the board, at which point I can summon her like any other character, like any other card in my hand. And when I do that, I will lift the 2-point penalty. It's like I just scored 2 points for bringing her. And that means, hey, in the present, I reach into the future to get her power, and then at some point in the future, I better play her. And because if I don't play her, then I'll suffer, I lose 2 points at the end of the game. And so that's the crux. And this notion of these warp powers, it's on almost all the cards. There's only a few of them that don't have some kind of, hey, pay me right now or play right now so that I can get an effect, but I got to pay the piper later or I will lose. Now let's just go on ahead and go through all the cards. And if you want, you can just pause them and read what the power is and all of that. And again, there's going to be a lot of them that have the warp and then their regular effects. So the immediate effect when you play it and then the full effect when you actually bring out the Merchant of Time later on, or the Lesser Shadow Twin, or the translocation. Just get an extra action right now, but you better get this built before the end of the game. Now, the interesting thing is, you can only have one being pending at a time. So if I reached into the future to get the Gates of Oblivion, and now this is pending, if I had another pending being in my hand, I wouldn't be able to make it pending as well until I eventually build this gate. So that's an important thing as well. You can only have one being pending at a time. You can't reach into the future more than once at a go. But it's so interesting, the notion that for free, you can get these benefits anytime you need them that help you with your main actions, but you now have a target. And the important thing about it is it's a public target. Everybody can see that I played the Antimatter Spirit. I got a big effect right off the bat. But before the game is over, because it's pending, if I don't get it played, I'll lose those points. Here's the interesting thing. What that means is your opponent now knows you want to make this. Normally, when you're playing Tash Kalar, well, at least I should say, when Jen and I are playing Tash Kalar, because we're not experts at this game. We're mostly just focusing on trying to make our own patterns, the patterns we need to summon whatever it is that we want. But now that I've played this, Jen can see, she knows I need to make this exact pattern. And she could actually, if she sees a situation where I might make it happen, she can start targeted destroying those patterns I'm trying to build up. And what I think this is like is, if you're an expert Tash Kalar player, you probably already play like this. You know you're going up against the Frost deck. You know what the patterns are, and you can see when a player's trying to go for a pattern, and you realize, you know what, I need to mess that up. Now, if you have publicly declared that you want to make the Eternal Emperor, you want to make his little throne here so that you can summon the Emperor, because you need to. If you don't do it, you're going to lose 2 points, or you've already lost points. So your opponent can see, oh, look, he's almost made the L. I better go on ahead and smash that thing. The interesting thing is, Etherweave makes Tash Kalar, for me and Jen, a little bit more confrontational than it's ever been. Because for the first time, we can anticipate what our opponent is trying to do and stop them. We're just kind of stumbling around, just focusing on our own stuff, which is why, even though Tash Kalar is a fairly direct conflict-heavy game, it's one that's always worked for us. Etherweave, I would say, is the most directly confrontational, because even if you're a Tash Kalar novice, you can target your opponent's specific things and try to stop them, in addition to completing objectives and getting your own being summoned, which is really what you're focusing on throughout the game. It's an incredibly cool expansion. Love the purple, love the time travel conceit, love the notion of instant free resources right now, but you've got to pay the piper. And also love the fact that I believe this is the first time that Vlada has done a co-design gig with somebody else. It just goes to show that I think Tash Kalar probably still has a bright and vibrant future ahead of it. It's such a brilliantly designed game. Anyway, folks, that's it. That is Etherweave expansion. And thanks for watching. Have a very, very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Oh, bye-bye.